live. We started a podcast, a little while ago, the Dreamyoungmedia podcast. And our whole goal, I don't know if you've just looked up more information on this, but our whole goal is to raise awareness to people with special needs. And so when I seen you on Instagram and the book that you had, it just made my antennas go up, and I was like, you know what, she's kind of moving in the same direction as we are. So it's just great to have you on.
And thank you. I appreciate it so much. I started out as a special education teacher in public schools and taught both in the adaptive and the general special ed curriculum. I was able to teach like kindergartners all the way through 12th grade, and then the really severe students all the way up to students that had, very minor disabilities. Okay. And then decided that I wanted to continue my education. So I got a doctorate and went in, started teaching teachers that wanted to be special ed teachers.
Very good. Very good.
So I've been doing that for about 6 years. And then my mother was an educator also. She was not in special ed, but she did general education, and then she also became a professor. And the neat thing is, the year I started teaching at college, she retired. So we kind of like switched hands.
So it runs in the family, basically.
Yes,
the baton,
it does.
In your blood.
Yes. And so when I started teaching, then she always had a book that we've written some textbooks together, not very fun, kind of, but she always had in the back of her mind, she wanted to write a children's book. And even when I was growing up, she would talk about it. And at that point, it was kind of just, one of those things that you hear your mom talking about. And then when she retired, she said, I think it's time that I try something like that. And I said, well, Mom, if you write a children's book, you're going to be one of, 100 million children's books out there. What can we do to make it different than just being that? I said, why don't we make it so that it has a special needs element? And not just that, but, our theme of the book is together you can be different and still belong. And so to me, it's not just, it's about autism. It has a goose with autism in there. They're very subtle things, because I want us to understand that we all have differences, whether it's, red hair, we're tall, we're short, we have big feet, whatever it is. We have to understand that when kids are growing up, those are big deal, and so whatever the difference may be, we can kind of come together as a community. And so I said, well, let's make this children's book have some areas that deal with special needs, and then let's see kind of how it goes. And so we kind of went back and forth with the manuscript, and it just came very naturally. And the book is just really, it's really neat, because Charlie is the main character with autism. And, like when he's learning to fly, the sun is too bright. And so he learns to fly upside down so that it's not so bright. Or when they're learning to honk, we've got some pictures where he's got his big wings over his ears, because it's just too loud.
Or when he's learning, information,
Yeah, and when he's learning to swim and the water's cold, we kind of have that, in the book. So it's not things that kind of like slap you in the face, because we're all different. We don't need it to be just that.
Sure.
But kids that have those differences are going to pick up on them and be like, oh, hey, I do that.
Yes.
That's extremely creative. Right. I love that approach.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I love that approach. I love that approach. And I had a chance to jump on your website and look at your Amazon and everything. And it seems like the book is doing fairly well. I see a lot of reviews, so that's starting to kind of build some momentum for you, right?
We're trying. That's the hardest part. And, it's like, it's a side thing for me. And I did not go to school to be in marketing and all that. This is all so new. I hadn't been on Facebook since college.
Wow.
So it was like, oh no, I got to figure this out, So, but they keep telling me like the reviews on Amazon and those type of things, that's what really makes it, and once you kind of get out there and do things like this, it really helps. And so I've been just trying to post every day and to just reach out. But the hard part is you kind of get that same community that you're reaching out to only. And so it's like, you got to push borders and get it, so I tried to reach out and be like, anybody that has advice, I take any advice and all advice, because to me, the message is going to help our younger generations to kind of understand it's okay.
I agree.
And that can be worth more than gold itself.
Oh,
you really think about it.
I agree.
Absolutely. I mean, It's funny. This morning, I got up really early because my mom wants to write book 2. And so, yes. And so she sent me, and, with all this coronavirus stuff and being a professor, all of our classes are online, and sessions are just, it's like all the days are running together. I've been like just Zooming and chatting with all of my students all the time. So it's been very crazy the last couple of days, but she sent it to me and I so bad wanted to read it and look at it. So this morning from like about 6 to 8, I was looking at it and adding my little comments and adding little differences and all those type of things. So, I mean, my goal is if I can make back what I put into it, we'll continue to keep writing. With the money that we got, we'll put it into self-publishing the next one and the next one, the next one, because it's the message that our kids need.
Absolutely.
Especially now with all the bullying that's going on, just people not being able to understand the differences that we all have and just everything that's going on within the culture itself. So it's a big plus. And so this second book that you guys are working on, is this going to be, is Charlie going to be in this book too, or you guys are going in a different direction? Or do you know? We're taking it in the same direction. We're adding a few characters, and we're going to keep the kind of the similar themes. I want to continue that. And in the first book, we have his big brother. His name is Gus, and he is kind of, if you have a kid with special needs in a family, you tend to have one sibling that kind of is a little bit more of a caretaker. It doesn't necessarily have to be an older brother, but tends to be somebody, right? So we kind of wanted to bring that into the book too, because a lot of those kids are kind of looking for some support too, because it's a hard role too. So we have Gus in the first book doing that, and so we're extending that part into the second book a little bit more. And so it's really just neat to see the character development. I mean, this is funny. You'll laugh probably at this, but I read it this morning and I started to tear up. When I read the second book, I thought, and I knew what was coming. It's like, it just is so powerful. It's
that's
a powerful
great.
Message.
If you had a chance to look, and I think I put it as my post yesterday, is that there's an activity in the back of the book, and it's a picture of Charlie. And what I ask for people to do is to draw on it what makes them different. So again, kind of like glasses, hearing aids, long hair, short hair, red hair, freckles, whatever, or a wheelchair. I mean, it can be very minor. It can be more of a disability, but what makes you feel different? And then there's a statement that says, I feel different because, and I'm asking people to do that and then send it to me. And I have some already up on Instagram and Facebook, but I want to keep adding that. So then kids can go on there and see, oh my gosh, look at all these people. They're different. They feel different too. It's not just me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And then it's like
movement for that can create a whole movement, not just for the book, but just online as well. Like tell me how your different challenge type approach. And I think that'd be
great. Cool.
Yeah. Hashtag tell me how you're different. Or come up with a hashtag that kind of ties into what you're trying to do, and then somehow tie it to trying to be different, and then make it just a challenge. So from celebrities to, just everyday people, students at your school, everybody tell me what's different about yourself. It doesn't matter if it's minor or major, Right. That's great.
Yeah. Well, if you can help or guide me a little bit on how to do that, I'd love to do that, because that's the power of the message is that we have to understand that we all have differences, and whether it's something that some people perceive as very minor, it's not. If we perceive it to be a difference, it affects us.
That's right.
And then we have to realize too that, oh my goodness, how many people feel that way? It's okay, maybe. And to me, the big part of that too is that we've gone so social media with kids that, and that to me can be very hard. Most people only post things about happy, here's my vacation on the beach, and here's me doing this, they don't post anything that is kind of the harder parts of life. Exactly. So when our kids go on to these social media sites, all they see are these glorious, happy things. Mm-hmm. And it's like, wait a second, is that how everyone feels all the time? So it's almost like I want to kind of combat that a little bit too, to show them that it's, we realize people are going to be on social media. That's not going to change. But how can we make social media not quite so much like idealistic?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a highlight reel of your life, basically, is what social media is. And people,
I know,
all all the highlights and all the great days, but there's days in between those days where they're not really feeling their best, or they're depressed, or going through some form of anxiety and different emotions.
And nobody shares that.
And nobody shares those things.
Right.
Now, I am seeing a lot more, we are getting a lot of, direct messages, and a lot of people who are starting to follow us on social media who are sharing those challenges, people who are going through sicknesses while in the hospital, people who are dealing with things with parents. So some people out there are really keeping it genuine when it comes to posting. They post the highlight reel, but they also post the stuff in between, which is nice to see. It creates that balance.
And just to add to that, also what we've been seeing are the caregivers, the siblings, like you said earlier. They're part of this equation, which their voices seldomly get heard, but they're a big factor in this whole circle. You can say. Yeah, and sometimes they tend to get left out. So I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's important because it's, and I don't mean hard and easy, in a positive or negative way, but those students or those kids that are the siblings have that role can be difficult for them mentally and emotionally also, and they need support.
That's right.
So it's been so much fun because it's funny, I don't really perceive myself to be an extremely creative person. I grew up in athletics and, I was a sports person and all that. And so it's kind of funny when I have gotten into this, every once in a while I'm like, wow, that it's kind of taken my life in a different direction in a way. Yeah. And so it's been kind of a challenge to do that. But, I've had, when it first came out, it came out like the second week of December. I had students that are now teachers bought the book and just sending me pictures. Hey, Dr. B, I got your book. And I was like in shock. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, that meant so much to me that they were seeking that out. And so then I've asked some of them that had it. I said, well, use it in your classroom and send us how it worked. Because sometimes teachers or parents or whatever need a little bit of, how do I incorporate this book? And so there's a couple of videos on my Facebook webpage that show how they used it in their classroom. So I'm really hoping because, it's a book that can help discussion too, right? So if teachers and parents and therapists and doctors and, your play groups and all those things want to talk about acceptance and diversity and inclusion, kindness, those type of things, sometimes we don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
But if we have a book that can lead us, and then some questions that I put in the back of the book help get that discussion started. And then also, I think, what is really helpful is that, how we are always like, I'm asking for a friend because we don't want it right? So a lot of the kids can use Charlie as that person, that go-between. Right. I think Charlie feels like this, or what do you think if Charlie did this, and then it makes it not like me. I'm not asking for me.
Right.
That's great.
And young kids, sometimes that's hard.
I agree. They'll be more open to express themselves, maybe, if you don't know it's directly coming from them. So
that's my hope. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a great approach that you use, Charlie, and you took that approach in the book. We've been working with people with special needs since like 2007. Cool. We have a for-profit agency out of Tampa, and it's a family-run business. And we've been doing that for a while now, helping adults with special needs transition out of group homes into their own apartments, into independent living. And so we started there. We started seeing like a need for more to be done in the community. So we started a nonprofit.
Right.
And we had a training center for a while under our nonprofit, Dreamyoungmedia in Tampa. We recently moved to Georgia, shut down the training center because of all the extra overhead that goes along with that. And now we're doing a raising awareness campaign instead. We feel like we could reach more people online than we could have in a local community setting. And so that's why we're doing this right now, is because we just
that is so cool
to tell more people. And you're writing the book, which is raising awareness. We have the nonprofit, we have the podcast, and we do some other things in the community here locally now to also help raise awareness. So it's like everybody's working on the same mission. So it's a great thing.
I love that you were doing that with group homes for a year. Once I graduated college, before I started teaching, I worked for a company that helped people with disabilities find jobs.
Nice.
And so I went out and did like job hunting and searching, and job coached them and did that.
We did that as well.
I did that as well.
It was really, it was such a great experience to see them become independent or semi-independent. But, that's what I always stress to the people I'm teaching now that are going into, roles in the public schools. I said, our main goal is to make them as independent as possible.
Right.
That's correct.
And so, that's what we need to do. So that's really cool. I have a connection there with you guys as well, because that meant a lot to me. That kind of showed, again, that inclusion into society and all that they really do. I mean, when I taught in the public schools, I had a lot of my students that had kind of that lower functioning autism and Down syndrome. Mm-hmm. IQs were, 60 or so. And so they were working in retail and a lot of them were courtesy clerks at grocery stores and stuff like that. Right. But the impact that they made on the community, incredible.
We saw that every day.
I saw it every day. I remember I had a consumer, his name was Kevin. He had Down syndrome. And listen, if I picked him up in the morning, and he would go into McDonald's, he'd be like, I think I know her. Her name is Susan. And I'm like, Kevin, leave people alone. Don't bother that lady. He walks up and the lady goes, Kevin! And they start hugging, take him to the library, the same thing. I would take him to the mall, the same thing. So it's like he literally had a connection with so many people. I'm like, wow, this guy is almost like a local celebrity based on how you walking into stores, and he has this connection with so many people. And and it was just phenomenal to see that he was actually integrated into community. He's not just living in the community, he's actually part of it. Which is great.
I had a student like that. He worked at Farm Fresh and he did the same thing. And then I coached volleyball. He was my volleyball manager. And I mean, he just everyone knew his name was Steven. Everyone knew Steven. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, it was just such a powerful thing. And now he actually, his family has to keep him busy because he just, he has Down syndrome, but he is just got to stay busy. So they make bird houses. And they he paints them and does little certain things on them, and it's kind of more of a rote task. Yeah. But they're bluebird houses. They're really, really cool. And so they sell them and donate money. And then he made these little business cards for himself to put in the birdhouse. So when people bought them, and he wrote his name, and underneath it, he wrote CEO.
CEO, he's a businessman.
I laughed for 10 minutes when I got that because it's just his personality. Yeah, and you just thought it's hilarious. I mean, it almost, makes you want to just really sit back and think.
Exactly. Right. It helps you to learn a lot about yourself as well. It really puts you back in touch with just the basics of what human love is, and just being more compassionate as well.
You are so right.
Yeah, these people have multiple levels of challenges, from financial to mental to social challenges, and just seeing them still get out there and make their birdhouses and do their business cards and get out there and work it's very encouraging. So if you them all. It's a lot you can do as well. So
that's right.
That's great. That's great.
I tell them all that they teach me as much as I teach them.
Yes,
that's right. Do. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
That's great.
But yeah, so very cool. I love all that you're doing. And I hope that this is just the beginning for us to continue to work together, because it sounds like you have a lot of passion and a lot of, things that you're doing that are different and, kind of pushing boundaries. And that's me. I'm always like, what can I do that's different and creative and, kind of doing something in the community. So I love to hopefully stay in touch and continue to do anything that you that I can support with or that we can work together on.
Thank you.
We feel the same exact way. The only thing we can and should do is work together so that we can even build awareness, raise awareness even more. So
yes.
Thank you once again.
So I'm definitely going to try to brainstorm some type of hashtag that's not being used.
Yeah.
That we can tie into the whole movement that you got going on with the.
I love it.
That book. Let me see if I can play around with something over the weekend, and maybe I'll come up with something that's not being used, and we can see where we can go from there.
Right.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
And that's great.
Awesome.
And you have any more questions for Dr. Bosch?
Yeah. So, you actually answered the question, how you tied yourself into the community, which was absolutely wonderful. So just once again, if you can just reiterate, what message are you trying to convey to the audiences? Because it's such a wide demographic. So.
It is. I think that the main message that we have is that together we can be different and still belong.
Okay.
So that's the main message. And we're going to continue through any sequels that we write. That would be the message that we would continue to bring along. Something that I want to make sure that is powerful is that I want the book to be something that teachers, parents, therapists, doctors, friends, family members, anybody picks up and they can use it to spark discussion about acceptance, about diversity, about inclusion, about kindness. So those are the things that I think that are really important. And then lastly is kind of that activity that I mentioned, is that if we can allow it to be very kind of organic for kids to see that they feel differently in some ways, but that others do too. Right. And that I want them to kind of sigh with relief when they see that and go, it's okay.
All
so,
right.
And where can we learn more about the book and about your services, or,
Right now, what I've done, and I'm still learning through all of this with advertising and marketing and stuff, but I do have the Facebook page that's Being Charley, Embracing Differences, and then the Instagram at We Are Charley. And so I keep those daily, adding things to those. And then we also have our Amazon authors page. And so you can kind of go on there and see what's offered. And then the book is offered in 3 formats. So hardback, paperback, and then an ebook. And it's offered from Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and then iTunes.
Nice.
And it is called Being Charley.
Being Charley, Embracing Differences.
Nice.
Wonderful.
I
Sounds
truly
great.
appreciate your time once again.
Thank you.
And we will stay connected. You're doing a great
Awesome.
job.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.